Berlin does not look like a city that runs Europe. It doesn't shout, it doesn't threaten, it doesn't move fast. Yet when Europe faces its biggest moments like financial collapse, political paralysis, and institutional panic, everything seems to slow and bend one direction: Germany. Why does Europe keep moving at Germany's pace? How did a country rebuilt to never dominate again end up quietly defining what Europe is allowed to do? This isn't a story about secret control or national conspiracy. It's about systems. Because in Europe, power doesn't live in speeches. It lives in rules that survive crisis. And to understand Berlin's role, we have to stop asking who leads Europe and start asking who sets the limits. Ask where Europe is governed. And most people point to Brussels, glass towers, flags, summits that stretch late into the night. But here is the funny thing: Brussels doesn't create power, it just processes it. The European Union isn't a state. It has no army, no treasury, no unified public willing to sacrifice on command. It is a machine that runs on consent. And when that consent disappears, even briefly, the system stalls. That's why every major European decision eventually runs into the same invisible checkpoint. Will Germany accept it? Not loudly, not emotionally, but structurally. And the reason that Germany holds that position has nothing to do with ambition, but everything to do with fear. After 1945, Germany rebuilt itself around a single lesson: power, when concentrated, destroys. In 1949, West Germany adopted a new constitution, the Basic Law. Its purpose wasn't ambition, it was restraint. Power was fragmented across federal states. Courts were empowered to override politics, and executives were intentionally weak. Germany wasn't rebuilt to lead, it was rebuilt to limit itself. Germany didn't trust leaders, it trusted procedures. Even major decisions had to survive scrutiny: legal, fiscal, and constitutional. Over the decades, this legal culture hardened, became more solid. Rules became legitimacy and procedure became morality. And when Europe began integrating in the late 20th century, that culture didn't stay inside Germany. It quietly spread. The euro is often described as Europe's grand political compromise. In reality, it is a German system scaled outward. European monetary integration accelerated in the 1990s. In 1999, the euro was launched as a digital currency. In 2002, euro banknotes and coins entered circulation. The European Central Bank, headquartered in Frankfurt, was modeled after the Bundesbank: independent, inflation-averse, and shielded from political pressure. And this wasn't accidental. It was historical memory turned into an architecture. When southern European countries like Greece, Italy, Spain, and Portugal joined the euro, they didn't just give up currencies, they gave up discretion. They entered a currency system built on German assumptions. They gained stability, but they lost flexibility. That trade-off remained invisible until the system was tested. The global financial crisis of 2008 exposed Europe's fault lines. By 2010, Greece was at the center of a sovereign debt crisis. Germany's response was consistent with its design. Help would come, but only through rules: austerity programs, fiscal targets, external oversight. Germany didn't frame this as a punishment. It framed it as a survival system. And once Europe learned that emergencies still had to pass through German discipline, that power quietly shifted. Germany's constitutional court doesn't govern Europe, but it defines how far Europe can go. Throughout 2010s, again and again, Germany's constitutional court repeatedly reviewed EU crisis measures. Most notably, from 2014 to 2020, challenges to ECB bond buying programs. Each time, the message was clear: European integration is allowed, but only through Germany's constitutional limits. And this creates an invisible hierarchy. Brussels proposes, markets react, and Karlsruhe decides whether the system survives scrutiny. And once law sets the ceiling, finance fills the space beneath it. Germany is Europe's largest economy, its biggest exporter, its most reliable creditor. That position creates a gravity. It gives a level of control, power. When crises hit, like pandemics, energy shocks, defense spending, Europe doesn't ask who has vision. It asks who has credibility. And credibility in Europe is measured in restraint. Germany moves carefully, so Europe moves carefully. Brother, you go, I go. But here is the twist. Germany never set out to rule this way. Berlin didn't export bureaucracy to dominate Europe. It exported it because it didn't trust anything else. Rules felt safer than leaders, courts felt safer than promises, and process felt safer than speed. And Europe, lacking an alternative system that could scale, so it adapted. Not because Germany demanded obedience, but because bureaucracy travels faster than authority. Yet, nothing is bulletproof, and systems built for safety struggle when the world turns unstable. Today, Europe faces war, energy insecurity, and geopolitical rivalry. And at some point, bureaucracy struggles. As Europe enters a harsher era, the Germany model shows strain. Rules slow response, consensus dilutes urgency, and procedure competes with reality. The very system that protected Europe now risks trapping it. Which brings us back to the original question, but with sharper stakes. Now let me get this very straight. Berlin does not rule Europe. It just defines how Europe works through fiscal discipline, through legal ceilings, and through institutional caution. As long as Europe runs on rules, Germany's bureaucracy remains at the center, quiet but patient and decisive. From 1949 to today, Berlin never seized power. It accumulated it quietly, procedurally, legally. So the real question isn't whether Berlin runs Europe, it's whether Europe can survive the next crisis at Berlin's speed.